Ethan Carter stood frozen in the doorway of his office, watching his wife Sophia wrapped in the arms of Daniel Wright, his business partner and oldest friend. How long? The words escaped Ethan's lips like ice. Daniel didn't even look ashamed as he slowly buttoned his shirt. Long enough to realize what you couldn't see, that Phoenix Tech has outgrown you, Ethan. The words hit like physical blows. Phoenix Tech was his creation, born in his garage apartment 9 years ago. Get out, Ethan whispered, then louder. Get out! Daniel only smiled, sliding a folder across the desk. Actually, Ethan, I think you'll find that's not how this works anymore. Board meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. When they were gone, Ethan collapsed into his chair, hands shaking as he opened the folder. Transfer of shares, new board structure, his own signature on documents he'd never seen before. His phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Some free advice. Read the fine print next time. I'm afraid the paperwork is in order, Mr. Carter, said Lawrence Winters, Phoenix Tech's corporate attorney, unable to meet Ethan's eyes across the conference table. This is impossible, Ethan growled. I never signed these documents. Daniel leaned forward. But you did, Ethan. Remember that stack of quarterly approvals last month? The ones Sophia brought for you to sign before your Tokyo trip? The memory flashed through Ethan's mind, Sophia assuring him they were routine paperwork. You buried transfer documents in routine paperwork? Ethan's voice was incredulous. That's fraud. It's unfortunate you didn't exercise proper diligence, Daniel replied smoothly. The board chairman cleared his throat. Given the circumstances, and with the majority of shares now controlled by Mr. Wright and Mrs. Carter, the board has voted to accept Mr. Wright's appointment as CEO, effective immediately. As the meeting adjourned, only the company's CFO, Janet Morris, hesitated by his chair. I voted against this, she whispered. The Osiris Project. Daniel convinced the board that your resistance to selling it was threatening the company's future. Ethan felt sick. Miltech Industries was notorious for weaponizing civilian technology. In the elevator, the security guard awkwardly handed him a cardboard box containing his personal effects. For what it's worth, sir, this isn't right. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Your things have been moved out of the house. The locks have been changed. 3 weeks later, Ethan sat in a cheap motel room surrounded by legal documents. The television reported on Phoenix Tech's stock surge following the announcement of the Miltech partnership. Industry insiders praised Daniel Wright's bold new direction. The reporter said, Wright and his fiancée, Sophia Carter, made the announcement yesterday. A knock at the door revealed Janet Morris, looking nervously over her shoulder. I'm leaving Phoenix, she said, handing him a USB drive. Before I go, I thought you should have this. Financial records, emails, things Daniel doesn't know I archived. What Ethan found made his blood run cold. Plans for overthrowing him dating back 18 months, offshore accounts, and proof that Daniel had deliberately sabotaged a security update to drive up the Osiris Project's value. Ethan began methodically organizing everything he knew about Daniel Wright. Weaknesses, pressure points, secrets. Something inside Ethan Carter, something soft and forgiving, died that night. By morning, a plan was forming, intricate as a spider's web and just as deadly. 2 months later, Ethan discovered Daniel Wright wasn't even his real name. David Westfield, born in Chicago, had changed his identity after a scandal involving embezzled funds. The pattern was clear. Infiltrate, manipulate, extract, disappear. Through an intelligence contact named Mason, Ethan learned Daniel was connected to Jacob Harlow, a powerful hedge fund manager who had backed Daniel's previous takeovers. Harlow's fund is heavily invested in Miltech, Mason explained. The Osiris deal isn't just profitable for Phoenix, it's saving Harlow from a serious liquidity crisis. Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Rebecca? It's Ethan Carter. I need a favor. It's about Jacob Harlow. Rebecca Chen, technology reporter for the Wall Street Journal and an old flame, had been trying to get dirt on Harlow for years. Like a chess player, Ethan would remove the protecting pieces first, leaving the king exposed and vulnerable. You have exactly 1 minute to convince me not to call security. Victor Zhao, CEO of rival tech firm Quantum Systems, regarded Ethan with contempt. I know how to destroy Daniel Wright and stop the Osiris sale to Miltech, Ethan said simply. By the end of the day, Ethan had assembled a team, Victor providing resources, Lena Kimura, a former FBI cybercrime specialist, with a grudge against Harlow, Marcus Johnson, an SEC investigator, and Rebecca Chen preparing expose articles. During their investigation, they discovered Sophia had been searching for information about Daniel's past. She's having second thoughts, Marcus observed. Ethan drafted an anonymous email to Sophia, attaching evidence of Daniel's true identity with a message. He's not who you think he is. Neither was your husband. 2 weeks from tonight, check your private email for the truth about both men in your life. What happens in 2 weeks? Lena asked. Ethan's face was grim as he pulled up Phoenix Tech's annual gala date. Justice happens. Rebecca Chen's expose hit the financial press like a bomb. Hedge fund giant Harlow linked to international money laundering scheme. By market open, Harlow Fund shares had dropped 12%, and Phoenix Tech's stock was collapsing in tandem. It's pandemonium here, Janet reported from inside Phoenix. Daniel's screaming at the board. Miltech wants to reevaluate terms. By closing bell, Harlow Fund had lost nearly 30% of its value. That evening, surveillance showed Sophia checking into a hotel under her maiden name, paying cash. At midnight, Daniel arrived looking desperate and angry. When he grabbed Sophia's arm, she pulled away sharply. I can read lips, Marcus offered, watching the security feed. She said, I know about Chicago. I know who you really are. Ethan leaned back, a cold satisfaction washing over him. The anonymous email had worked better than he'd hoped. Sophia received a mysterious invitation to meet someone with information about Daniel. At the meeting, Lena Kimura revealed Daniel's history of corporate theft and his plan to flee the country after the Osiris sale, leaving Sophia to face the SEC investigation. He's planning to leave the country, Sophia whispered, reading about a villa purchased in a non-extradition country. Taking most of the proceeds with him, yes, Lena confirmed, leaving you to face the SEC investigation when the financial irregularities come to light, the ones created using your credentials. Back in her hotel room, Sophia paced frantically. When Daniel called, she confronted him. I know about the villa in Bali and the accounts in the Caymans. A long silence. Then, in a voice she barely recognized, Who have you been talking to? After the call, Sophia stared at Lena's business card before dialing. I want to meet him. I want to talk to Ethan. The Phoenix Tech Annual Innovation Gala would be the stage for Ethan's final move. Disguised as a security consultant, he infiltrated the event while Marcus prepared to deliver the SEC notification during Daniel's keynote address. Despite challenges, Phoenix Tech has remained at the forefront of innovation, Daniel told the crowd. And tonight, I'm thrilled to announce our most significant achievement yet. Daniel's phone buzzed on the podium. Then other phones began chiming throughout the room as Rebecca's expose broke. The ballroom doors opened to admit FBI agents led by Marcus. Daniel Wright? We have some questions about Phoenix Tech's financial records. chaos erupted. When Daniel bolted toward a service exit, he encountered Sophia. "You knew," Daniel accused. "You set me up." "Like you set me up to take the fall?" Sophia retorted. "No, Daniel," came Ethan's voice. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." As Daniel lay subdued on the floor, Ethan placed a flash drive beside him containing all the evidence. "The authorities will be very interested." Outside, Rebecca Chen gave Ethan a barely perceptible nod before turning to her camera crew. "Breaking news tonight as Phoenix Tech CEO Daniel Wright is taken into custody." The headlines the next morning told the story of Phoenix Tech's collapse and Daniel's arrest. Jacob Harlow was fighting extradition after fleeing to his private island. The Miltech deal had disintegrated. Sophia had turned state's witness, providing critical evidence in exchange for reduced charges. She would avoid prison but faced financial ruin and social ostracism. At the emergency board meeting, Janet Morris presented a proposal, a partnership with Quantum Systems to salvage the company, with a new leadership team headed by Ethan Carter. "Poetic justice," Victor remarked as they watched the board unanimously approve the deal. Ethan merely nodded. Justice is just the beginning. 6 months later, Ethan stood at the podium where Daniel had once proclaimed his triumph. Phoenix Tech had been reborn, its reputation slowly rebuilding. Daniel awaited trial from a federal detention center, his bail repeatedly denied. Sophia had disappeared to Europe, her settlement barely covering her legal fees. "Today marks not just a new beginning for Phoenix Tech," Ethan told the assembled employees and press, "but a recommitment to the ethical innovation that was always our foundation." The Osiris project had been redirected toward its original purpose, protecting privacy rather than exploiting vulnerabilities. The partnership with Quantum Systems had created the largest ethical tech consortium in the industry. Later, in his rebuilt office, Janet brought him a package that had arrived by courier. Inside was a handwritten note from Sophia. "I know it doesn't matter, but I'm sorry. What I did was unforgivable. You deserved better." Ethan placed the note in his desk drawer without reply. Some bridges, once burned, could never be rebuilt. 1 year to the day after he'd been forced out of his company, Ethan hosted a private dinner for the small circle who had helped him reclaim his legacy. Victor, Lena, Marcus, Rebecca, Janet, and a few loyal employees who had risked their careers to support him. "To justice," Victor proposed as they raised their glasses. "To consequences," Lena amended with a slight smile. Ethan nodded, but his own toast was simpler. "To tomorrow." That morning, he had received news that Daniel had accepted a plea deal, implicating Harlow in exchange for a reduced sentence. Sophia had been photographed working as a barista in a small Italian village, unrecognizable without her designer clothes and carefully maintained image. As for Ethan, the revenge that had consumed him for so long had transformed into something else, a determination to build something better than before. The new Phoenix Tech would rise from the ashes stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Sometimes, Ethan reflected as he looked around at these people who had become more than allies, losing everything is the only way to discover what truly matters. The empire he'd rebuilt wasn't just about power or success anymore. It was a testament to resilience, to integrity, and to the truth that while revenge might be served cold, justice burns eternal.
If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.